welcome to the Golden Hour. I am Golden Duffy, your host, and I have an incredibly inspiring and exciting guest today. Katrina Starr is the founder of Momentum Catalyst, supporting founders and executives with transformation in love, relationships, codependency, and lifestyle choices. Her work over the last 8 years has shown that humans have the capacity to love without limits, expectations, or specific commitments. Humans also have the capacity to cause great harm to the ones that they love under the false impression that is love. Katrina invites us to embrace our human capacity to love without shame, destroy the illusions that prevent love, and stop sabotaging behaviors with money, sex, food, relationships, and careers. Destruction of the paradigms, conditioning, and codependency begins with the awareness of what love really is and what it is not. Love is different for each of us, yet there is a common theme and language connected to love. Katrina offers a different approach to unraveling difficult real-life situations and relationships. If you feel you are part of an impossible situation and don't know a way out, you are in a safe space. Take your power back, be seen and heard. Freedom is real. Katrina's superpowers are being able to identify the obstacles of trauma in the body, listening for messages that support the deepest access to love, and resolving PSTD, sexual trauma, money obstacles, and shame, anger transmutation. She has traveled the world, continues to heal by opening her heart to all that is possible in this life. She is a full-time single mother of 2 incredible children. She thrives in adventure, quiet spaces, and writing her soon-to-be published books. Welcome, Katrina.
I am so happy to be here.
I'm really, really happy to have you. You know, it's so awesome when we meet people and we just feel so connected in our messages, but we also bring different elements to each other's messages. And that's one of the greatest things is this TV show does, is it gives us all a forum to speak and to share and to influence those who really are needing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and even as you said that too, what was really resonating for me is, my capacity as a human to ask for what I want also gives you and others that I connect with that same capacity to ask for what they want.
Right. It's permission, right?
Mm-hmm.
We weren't taught that, right? We were taught that you get what you get and you don't get upset. Remember that?
Yep. Yes, very much so. And it's early childhood development that a lot of the stumbling, it's, as it's so refreshing when someone asks you what you want, but it can also be very terrifying. And I've found that to be true in so many of the clients that I work with is I ask them what they want. And it's like deer in a headlight.
Yeah.
It's such a physical response. And so I'm really excited to talk about this conversation today.
I know this is so good. And when you talk about that trauma response, I mean, part of the biggest reason I think is because we have not connected to our deepest desires. We haven't been encouraged to connect with our deepest desires. We've been encouraged to follow the outside sources, right? The parents, the teachers, the siblings, the peers, all the people that tell us their opinion of what they think we should do, that most of us has lost that connection to our inner guidance and our deepest desires. And I think that's where the deer in the headlights comes from.
Yeah, and there's so much shame around it. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, there was just a client just a week ago where he couldn't say it. Like it was like, the dentist and the tongue suppression. Like literally, it was like 10 minutes of trying to fumble through very specific request of like what he really wanted. And like now that it's been a week of that, and he actually said it, he has like it's life changing. He's like, that was the biggest game changer for me.
You're unblocking that throat chakra, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
from all those beliefs and all those. And I think a lot of it stems to the fact that by initializing what we want and going for what we want, we're being considered selfish.
Absolutely. I think so many of us, right? I mean, okay, this is the thing. So many of us, and myself included, 8 years ago, I was burned out. I didn't even know how to give to myself. And, I'm super into the places of entrepreneurship. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10. I mean, it like really is like a driving thing, but I ended up getting so burned out. And then being a mom, I didn't know how to give to myself.
Right.
And I had suppressed my desire. And I think this is a big part of the work that I do. Like, if you're not able to ask for what you really want in this life, that begins the step one of this process, which is excavating, getting really curious about what is desire. And it can be scary to really start to play with desire. And but desire is like it's a starting point for us, and we have to find safe containers of being able to have that. And sometimes it's not safe to express to our loved ones because we're not sure about it and we don't understand it and we don't know, right? But
Right.
when we're starting this process, it is excavating. We're excavating our true self.
I love that word. That's great. I know. And if you do kind of speak too soon and too early in the process, then your loved ones and those around you are going to actually reflect those fears and that uncertainty within you. And it's probably going to cause you to kind of shrink back into the trauma, right? Into the hiding.
Well, and that brings up another point. Just in this past year, I've been really leaning into this place of like really speaking what I want. And I did back in December. I really spoke to that place with my partner at the time, and it was terrifying. It was almost like it brought up the most like intense like panic feeling and like super uncertainty, right? And I've been practicing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's always a continued practice, and then having the tools and the community to support yourself in
And
this place.
and can you connect that? Like, what was that fear that was on the other side of it? Is it abandonment? Is it not
Oh,
being
yeah.
loved? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
It
that's
was
everybody's
abandonment.
fear, right? Abandonment, not being loved, not being liked. Like, that's everybody's fear, right?
Yep. And I think the biggest thing is that accepting what we really want, right? Like voicing it and accepting it for ourselves is really the first step in that, right? And the more that we really accept that, then others who are aligned with that can start to support and say yes to that, or they'll say no to that. And it's actually a beautiful thing if they do say no to that, because then you do get to touch the places of abandonment, rejection, and like there's another word that wants to come through. It's not ready yet, but there's places here in this revealing
Yeah,
that it's so worth it to do, because otherwise you end up in places where you're not your authentic, you're
yeah,
not in your core.
yeah. I wanted to just go back to that, and maybe you can just expand on this a little bit when you said you want to touch the places of abandonment, because most of us have been taught to run from these emotions or to eat our emotions or to shop from emotion. Like, we have not been taught to sit down. And I tell people, this is the work. Like, this is what is going to create a new life experience for you, is connecting with those energies, with those feelings, with those traumas. What other benefits can you share from really connecting, and how can it, like, do you have a process for connecting with that stuff?
Yeah, so like the first part of the work that I really help with is creating a safe container around excavating some of this, right? Like really having the safety in self and safety in a container for that. And then the next place is what happens magically, and there's places of where can we go to connect, right? Like what is the next step in connecting with it? And usually what happens is if we feel safe in feeling our grief, feeling love, if we're starting to create that safety around it,
Mhm.
um, and showing that fear doesn't have to be the overriding, it's kind of like the overriding system default.
So
Is
true.
that, I'm in fear. I don't want to go into the grief. I'm not going to touch the anger. I'm not going to do that. But ultimately, that is, in the big picture, that's the separation.
Yeah.
And we can make a choice to connect with those places within us where we've denied ourselves before. And that ultimately then allows us to really feel it,
Yep.
and to exchange it with another person.
Which heals it, transforms it.
It transmutes it. And then it's no longer stuck in your body. And like, I want to share, I noticed a pattern in my 10-year-old son. This was, so this is about desire. Desire to play basketball, right? And
Yeah.
desire to do this one thing. And I noticed that, and there was another thing too, like he really wanted to play a board game and some other things, but I noticed that he wasn't actually asking for the thing. He was trying to like say, oh, do we have time to, he was skirting around the thing that was actually the thing. And I knew it, right? And so then I was just an invitation. Okay, what do you really want?
Yes.
So we hide, right? It's
Yeah.
this like implant of like, well, if the other person's not going to accept it, I have to create a safe place of like not addressing it directly. And
Yes.
this is the pattern that happens for
Yeah.
boys, especially, I think. It's like they don't feel like they can really ask for what they want.
Yeah. It's that fear of rejection, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's the no. No, you can't have that. And then having to deal with the emotions
Yes.
behind that.
Yeah.
And then like actually having to communicate those emotions.
Yeah. Which is all vulnerability, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing because you actually do work with men.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put up your link for that because that is apps. Can you just share a little bit about, because I do believe I've actually had other people on the show that have been sharing about the vulnerability in men and how men haven't been taught how to process emotions or that they should have any emotions as it is. So we've really gone into a lot of our male society is full of rage and anger and unexplained depression and all of that because they're not learning how to process, because us as women, many times we don't even have a choice in processing our emotions, right? Like once a month, we're going to be processing emotions, whether we want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
So for men, it's unlearned. Like they have not been given the tools or equipped with the fact that they even should have emotions or validate emotions. So can you share a little bit about your groups that you do with men?
Yeah, it's deep work. Like the place right now, I'm starting a mastermind for IT and tech founders, which is a 10-month program, which I'm very excited about because that's a different type of transformation. The wisdom that comes from a mastermind is infinite, and there's so many different possibilities with that. And I also have the free community for the extraordinary men. So it's off of my website, and the link is here.
Okay,
But it's
great.
a community that is really supporting places of understanding what it is we really want and how our relationships impact that. If we don't have aligned relationships, it is going to impact our success as an entrepreneur or an executive or whatever it is that we're bringing out into the world. It is going to impact that. So having a safe place as a man to be able to connect with these things is really important.
Yeah.
And it can be like it's life changing.
It's life changing for sure. And I love the way you said, like, the relationship really does, our relationships as a whole really manifest in our whole life, because when you think about relationships, they're the reflection of what we have going on within. So if we're not doing the work within and we're running around trying to get love from all these different places out of lack, right, for what we don't feel inside or what we feel like we're lacking inside, then our entire life experience is going to be in that lower frequency because that's the dominant vibration. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like the withholding, the without, I'm without, I don't know how to do this on my own. Um, and that's been so much of my own journey as a woman, like feeling like I don't know how to connect with love without having someone else. I don't know how to do this. And so then I drew that in, right? As I've drawn that in my marriage, where I felt like I needed that person in order to connect with love. And so after shedding that and divorcing, I really realized that, wow, I can find ways to be love because I am love.
Yes.
And I don't need the other person for this. And it actually really showed me where I wasn't able to be successful in the ways that I wanted to. Um, I wasn't showing up in the work the way that I really wanted to. And it was really impacting my money. It was impacting my intimate connection with myself and with anyone, like even my kids, right? Like being able to really connect with them. So if our personal life is not connected in the way that is really us, our professional life is most likely going to struggle. And we're probably going to have burnout,
Yeah.
depression. There's going to be all these different things because we're not in a strong foundation within our personal life.
Right. And our motivators become different. Like we're motivated from a different place. Like when you really know who you are and you really know what you deserve. Would you say it's like the base of all of it is this, like was this a spiritual awakening for you as far as like recognizing, I mean, I am love is such a spiritual thing. It's just a connection to that energetic, stream of consciousness. Was it a spiritual thing, or is it more about the worthiness and deservedness of connecting with that energy and knowing that, we're not here to live in lack. We're not here to live something that we're not. It's like that coming back to self. Can you share a little bit more about your journey with that?
Yeah, with love, it's been so interesting. It's my little girl. It's
Yeah.
the infinite, like my 2 year old, my 3 year old. I had such a massive heart. Like I had this capacity to just love. And
Mm,
it was so great. And I realized that a lot of my people around me didn't know how to deal with that.
right.
They didn't have a system to help me process my emotions. My sister died when I was 3, so that was a massive imprint into my system about, death and really like the opposite of love, what felt very much like the opposite of love. And that life is fragile. We're not promised. We're not promised these what we think, right?
Yeah.
We are promised this breath, this moment right now,
It.
because
Yep.
we are that, right? And so I think my journey with love was where I stopped, I blocked it in, I tried to contain it. I
Hmm.
didn't know, right? Like how to deal with this big heart. And as like in my 40s, it finally like was so obvious that I just been suppressing myself and my love and my capacity and my gentleness, right?
Right.
And it just burst, like everything just broke. It's like a catalyst moment in my life, right?
Yeah.
Between a divorce, traveling internationally, figuring out all these different things, and my business was struggling at that time. There was a lot of different factors, and it was like, okay, am I willing to finally accept that I am that bigness of love?
Right.
And like it's like, are you finally willing to accept that? And that's been the process of cultivating desire
Right.
and then stepping into asking for what I really want.
So that is love. When you're actually connecting with that desire and you're acknowledging it and you're intending it and you're asking for it, you're actually connecting with that value, respect, and love for yourself.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Well, and then let's take that even one step further. I mean, that's part of this 3 steps that I help. It's the excavation of love is
Yep.
usually what it is.
Yep.
And then it's the connection And then we're actually able to exchange when we have words and we have understanding of what love means for us, and then we're able to exchange with the other person, and it's that reciprocity that happens.
Yes.
That is infinite possibilities, and that's our best life.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
when we embody it and step into our
It's
best life.
it's the fullest exchange of the purest essence of love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
good.
mean, that's what we want.
Right?
At least that's what I want as a
Right.
human.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I think at the core, I think that's what everybody wants. There's just so many distractions and and the disconnect of knowing it.
Yeah.
So, to share a little bit about how people can connect more to this knowingness. Is it, the process? Is it meditation? I mean, obviously meditation's a big part of it.
Well, okay, so one of the things that I've noticed is really embracing my gifts, right? So that's been a huge part, being able to excavate my gifts that I've kept dormant for a long
Mhm.
time. Has breath work was I became a certified breath worker 8 years ago, and I'm not talking about really overwhelming breath work. It was a very subtle place of opening for me, but it was
Mm.
powerful. And so breath work was huge. I've been a yoga freak for 25 years. So yoga has helped me to feel my body, to be in my body, but it wasn't accessing. I wasn't able to access my gifts, and I definitely wasn't breathing. I
Yeah.
was very restricted in my breathing. There's a lot of controlled breathing in yoga. So being able to feel our breath in like a easier way and a genuine reciprocity with ourself actually allows that curiosity to connect with another person.
Wow. That's amazing. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, like so even I received a breathwork class, right, from one of my colleagues who did the same training with me, and I just received it 2 days ago. And that place of softness that opened up in my breath, it's like where the breath just starts to breathe you. You're not actually doing it. You're not like going, okay, I need to breathe in. It's just like it takes over you.
Right.
And that has been probably the most expansive way that I've connected with love, where I realize that I don't have to control, like, it's just this,
The letting go.
it is this automated, this thing that just wants to happen. And it's probably one of the most, I mean, it is beyond like going, to some exotic location or experiencing the best massage or, receiving $100,000 in your bank account or whatever. It is this feeling of the breath breathing you and getting to that place where you can be in that is by far the most powerful experience I've probably ever experienced.
Wow. Well, I want to do that. That sounds amazing.
Right?
Yeah. We should get a group of people together and do this. I love it.
Yeah. Well, it is like I'm figuring out ways to
Yeah.
really incorporate this again. With COVID and all that stuff, like
Yeah.
it really kind of changed that. I the places of where we get to experience our breath and allowing. It's actually interesting because I'm so connected to it. So my one-to-one sessions with people actually help them to connect with this. If that's their intention, then it's like magic. It's like they start to understand that breath.
Mm.
And so it can happen in that space. It can also happen like in group breath work as
Yeah.
well too. So
That's amazing. And is there a name for this type of breath work or it's just breath work?
So this specific one that I was taught, and there was 12 others of us, was called the Breath of Love,
Oh,
and I am grateful for that understanding. It comes from breath work that really launched itself in the 70s.
yeah.
There's the holotropic breath work, which actually is intended to be like with the reason why breath work was awakened was because LSD was, not legalized, like the stopping of it. And so people were trying to find ways to get to those states without drugs.
Ah,
And so holotropic was one of the main. And I don't do that. I actually do this more. You want to stay within your window of tolerance.
yes.
And so I really help people to stay within their window of tolerance and going to those places of expansion. And you still get the rewiring benefits. You still get the major like experience of adventure
Yeah.
in the session. It's just not you're not getting into overwhelm.
Right. I love that because some of those really intense, I've only done a few like really intense breath things and they were slightly overwhelming. You get dizzy. Yeah.
Yeah. I've also like I was trying to work a little bit harder in one of the ones that I participated in from there was like 40 of us, right? And I actually did. I was trying to control though. I was trying to
Yeah.
control
That's me.
my own experience and I was bringing in too much breath and I was like trying instead of just allowing what I really needed. And so it put me into a bit of overwhelm. I was able to navigate it.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But I like that you work with people kind of where they're at. That's really smart.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So the breath work is super interesting. I actually put your Facebook link up so people can find you up on Facebook. So you guys can check her out on Facebook, but you can also connect with her on her website if you're interested in doing some of the breath work, which I totally am. I think I was doing somatic breathing for a little while with a chiropractor, and I will say, like, my body definitely started to readjust itself. So we have this incredible mechanism to heal our own bodies with what we have going on. Just we don't need any outside sources. It's like the breath is ours to manipulate and to create and to allow. And so I really believe in this stuff. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Breath work. I mean, I didn't believe that I needed somebody to teach me how to breathe.
Yeah.
So I just do that
Right.
all the time. Right. Like this seems, but it was so obvious that I was ready for something completely different in my life because I had emotional overwhelm, PTSD. I was in a very codependent marriage. I wasn't able to connect with my kids in the way that I really wanted. And
Mm,
I had big, big visions for my life. And I didn't know how to do it.
right. Which is such a frustrating place, right?
That's where depression comes in.
Yep.
That's where physical illness, like I was working with having an inflamed bladder, so interstitial cystitis, and I actually healed that with the breath work and the somatic healing that I do.
Amazing.
So like that's the impact.
Yeah.
That's the impact. And so are we willing to move through that in order to really have the life that we want? And
Yeah.
that's where I developed this process with all of my work. It encompasses the excavation, the connection, and the exchange, the reciprocity.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that because that is, I put up a post today on Facebook about the idea of like what you're telling your body and what you're experiencing in your body and illness and sickness and disease and all of it. And one thing is, I'll watch people a lot and they'll do the same things over and over again and expect different results, which is the definition of insanity. And basically, it's like it's our system and it's being caught in a system that isn't necessarily about your healing. So when we can shift away from that and we can actually go, okay, if I've done all these things and I'm still sick, I'm still experiencing symptoms, I'm still not well, what out there can I do that's of a different modality that could actually create a real change for me? And it's being able to be curious enough and brave enough to say, this isn't working. I need to shift out of this and shift into something else because there are so many things. Our body is so amazing and incredible, but to look outside of what you've been doing and connect with something like what you're doing to promote healing, but also to connect with yourself in a different way. So it's like, it's like the emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical all in one encompassment, right?
Yeah, and when I was 12, I mean, I was not in a good place. And I was really like, am I going to have a good life?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like, okay, I grew up in a childhood end times apocalyptic Christian cult, right? So
Mhm.
I was really stifled, and like, you can't have your desires, you can't express what you really want, you have to stay within these rules, you can't, like, none of that is allowed. So basically, I mean, it after 12 years of that, my
Yeah.
body, I was like, I'm done. Like, I kind of want to check out. I don't want to be
Yeah.
here. And so that's when I asked the big question, am I going to have a good life? And I heard and I felt, I mean, I had this moment that I'll never forget. And I just knew in that moment that I was going to have a good life and that it was worth it. And that if I figured it out, I like made a commitment that I would share it with the world. And so then I did all the
Wow.
things in the 20s and the 30s, and I did all the workshop. I did all these things, but it didn't work. I couldn't get to that place
Yeah.
of accessing what love really meant for me. And ultimately,
Because you're looking for it outside, right? You're looking outside of yourself. Yeah.
yeah, and it was I was so depleted by the time
Yeah.
some of the aligned answers came in for me, right? Like, I had to let go of what I thought was my path and to just accept where I was. And that can be really hard for a
Mhm.
lot of us, but that's actually the beginning of massive growth, is to
Yeah.
accept where we're at and
So,
then to really start to ask for help,
yep.
really start to cultivate our desire and excavate that we have to have that. We have to have the desire. Otherwise, we're not going to get to what we really want.
No, no, not until you have that clarity, right? And a lot of
Yep.
times that clarity comes on what you don't want. So
Yes.
right? So when you know what you don't want really strongly, that's when the desire for what you really do want is strong. But the challenge for people is they focus on what they don't want so often that they don't invite in what they do want, which is connecting with that desire and saying, I can do this and I can create this and I'm worthy of this.
And that's so scary.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, and that's where there's a confusion, right? Of like, is it really worth it to ask for it?
Yeah.
Are we safe in asking for this?
Yeah.
A lot of times it can be linked to childhood trauma where there actually was abuse for
Yep.
asking for what we wanted.
Yep. Absolutely. So what are the 3 steps to knowing what you want?
So I mean, it really is excavating, connecting, and exchanging, like actually putting it into practice.
Okay.
So once we excavate and really get clear about some of our desires, right? And this can be different types of desires, right? I'm not talking necessarily sexual. I'm talking
Mhm.
about places of like, maybe it's like you desire a really beautiful wood floor to feel that on your feet every day when you wake up.
Yep.
Maybe it's simpler things like having the right sugar for your coffee, and then really like almost commanding it.
I love that.
It's not just about like saying it and then, not taking action towards
Right.
it, but it's really about the execution of it. And so the excavation is super key, and that can be terrifying. And that's why a lot of people come to me,
Yes.
is for that place of safety, because they don't feel safe within themselves,
Yeah.
and they don't have a container of safety. So that's the excavation. And then the connecting is super important, because a lot of times when we've connected with the things that we want, it gets taken away, or we put it out there, we did the thing,
Yeah.
right? And then it didn't come with the results that we wanted at all.
Yeah.
And so reconnecting with that thing is really important. And we do that with our emotions. We do that. There's many different ways to reconnect. And then ultimately it's about the exchanging with another person, practicing it, saying, this is what I want. Right. And then that's the invitation for them to say yes or no. Right. Or maybe it's not even about them saying yes or no. It's just about, wow, them witnessing you, seeing you, and then maybe they connect you with the places and support that you're also looking for.
Right.
And then that exchange allows you to actually see where you can find it within yourself.
Right.
And it also helps you to see where there is places of support that could come in to ultimately create your best life.
Love that. That's amazing. And that's the process. It's so simple, right?
It's really actually kind of
I think
boring.
one of the things that trips people up. Yeah. You think? I don't know. I think for the average person, it's not boring because it's kind of a new adventure, first of all. If you've never done it before, this is like a whole new avenue. And because there is so much fear involved, which I also like to kind of shift into excitement, it's kind of an exciting adventure to get to those places and clear out what's been keeping you stagnated.
Well, and so it's simple. I say boring as, it
Yeah.
in fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
because who knew? Like when I was 12, I'm like, wow, those 3 simple steps can
So simple.
let me do the things that I really love. And I think the thing right here is, and you've said some key words, and I'm hoping that this lands for people. My core self, my core values are adventure, curiosity, and connection.
Awesome.
Those are my 3 core values. And that's me. That's who I am. And I am love. And so in this conversation, that's what's coming out.
Yeah.
Like you're just speaking to like, oh, this adventure. And I'm like, yeah. And that's why actually I'm supporting founders, is because I lost my sense of adventure in my work.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to bring adventure in
Right.
beautiful ways. So I was looking for adventure in ways that actually, like, traveling the world was great, but there's places of adventure that I didn't really need. And I
Right.
was missing it in my business.
Right.
And so I think, what a better gift. I feel so magical right now because I know I'm exuding that place of adventure,
Yes.
curiosity, and connection right
Well,
here, right now, because this is who I am. And that is the gift for me in my life.
absolutely. How did you get to your 3 core values?
So so this is my willingness to exchange, right? This is where I'm practicing exchanging with other people all the time. Right. And so I found I didn't even think I needed core values because that's like so boring, right? Like seems corporate-y, there's all this thing. But it was like 3 weeks ago when I was really stepping into this place with leading founders, and I realized I have to have my core values nailed.
Right.
Right. So I hired this coach, and it's been amazing to have that place. And it was so simple to get to. And
Yeah.
so now I'm actually allowing that support with him to help the founders that I'm helping to cultivate and excavate the core values in their life, so then they can implement it and see how they're actually doing that
Yeah.
every day.
And it becomes a guidepost, right? A guidepost to honesty, like being honest with yourself.
Oh my God. Like I am so grateful for this now, this wisdom, because now I get to ask myself, okay, if I don't feel aligned or I'm feeling funny in my body, if I feel tight, tension, so I ask myself, where am I limiting adventure in my life right now?
Ooh, I love that.
Where am I not allowing curiosity?
Love it.
Or where am I not embodying connection?
Connection.
Right? And where can I allow more of that.
Love it.
Right. So that's my core value. And then my drivers, the place of my business and my work is the excavation and the connection and the exchanging. So
Right.
I'm doing that all the time with my work and helping people to do that for themselves to get to their core values.
Right. That's awesome.
Right?
I'm gonna
It's
put your website up again. That's so good. And you also do retreats. Wait, let me put your link up for your retreats. So you also do is that men and women that you're doing retreats
so
with?
the retreats that I did last year, it was just with men, and I took a pause because I really needed time to cultivate this mastermind and
Right.
what the mastermind meant for me. So that was really difficult. I had to stop exchanging.
Yeah.
I had to really root into my connection with myself. And so now I'm going into that place where there'll be more invitations for retreats. Money and Boundaries was a retreat that I wanted to do in Sedona for both men and women. I'm really thinking that needs to come back, probably in February. Sedona in February is amazing. So that's a place
I love
where
the sound.
Money and Boundaries, oh my gosh, it touches so many different things for us.
I love
And
that. I
and
love
our
that. That sounds
ability
like
to,
something I would definitely be interested in.
right? Yeah. The Money and Boundaries piece. See, I wasn't okay, here we go. This is my authentic truth. I wasn't ready to hold
Okay.
the depth of what that was that I wanted other people to experience. I wasn't ready to exchange that because I wasn't super connected with understanding how important it is to have boundaries around money, and also what money really is,
Hmm.
and the language of money. And that's what's happened in the last year. I've uncovered the language of money. So that's given me a better connection with to be able to support that type of a retreat.
That's amazing. Give us one little tip about money, the meaning of money that could help people in this conversation to shift the way they think about money.
Money is not, money wants to connect with you.
That's so good.
Money is like breath.
Oh,
Money is like I have chills. Money is like the blood coursing through your veins. Money is like the structure of your muscles and your places of who you are. Money is the simplest, like intimate desire expressed.
mm.
Like money needs to know what you want.
Oh, this is so good.
And if we're not connected to money in this way, we're gonna have anger around money. We're gonna have issues emotionally around money. We're
Yes.
gonna feel frustrated. We're gonna feel like we don't get what we want with
We're going to
money.
hold it away from us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that somebody else has control over it. Whereas if we invite this deep connection, and I've been working on this for 8 years, this has been like major unraveling,
Me too.
right?
The timeline is about the same. It's probably been a good 10, I mean, yeah, I would say 8 years of like really starting to understand it and get it, where it's not this like thing that's lording over us, or holding us down or keeping us from doing what we want to do.
Right. And I think actually, 10 years, Jean Houston is a woman that I went to a retreat. It was amazing. It was out in the woods. It was phenomenal. And this was in 2012. And I listened to her. It's like she had this thing, about money and earth and this whole like different take on it. I was like, wow, that's cool. Right. And it helped me to see something different. And then I went to different retreats. I went to different Wealthy Goddess. I went to all these different things, and it was so disconnected. I never felt the connection. It never was an invitation to connect with money. And
Interesting.
so I knew that I was I was working on figuring out what that really means. So then if I know what connection to money means and I can show that to others, then they can find that place of connection. And
So
then
it's
we can start to exchange.
so it's looking at the deeper aspects of your relationship with money. Most people don't think they have a relationship with money, but you absolutely have a relationship in the way you feel about it, the way you treat it, the way you allow it to flow or not flow. So it's getting to those deeper core values about money and the way you feel about it that needs to be looked at and excavated, like you said, in order to come into a whole new understanding and a new connection.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've seen so much in my work is sex and money conversations, they hold the same type of energy.
Interesting. Talk
So
about that.
if we're struggling with speaking our truth about money or finding connection to money, there's another window of opportunity for us to look at with, intimacy and desire with sex and that place of exchange. It could just even
Mm.
be with ourselves. If we're single, what is our
Mhm.
exchange with ourself around physical touch, intimacy, right? And so there's powerful places of accessing this connection in different ways. Um, so then we can actually really get to that place of connection. Because if we're always like, if we're feeling like we're in lack, there's multimillionaires who live in scarcity and they don't give to
So true.
themselves, right? They
So
don't know
true. Yep.
how to give to themselves. And so they're not really connected with money because they feel like it could
Mm.
be taken away at any moment.
Yep.
And what's rooted and grounded is if we really start to feel that connection with money. And money can be like an experience of a lover.
Mm.
Like, what if money was a lover? How would you treat money?
I love that.
And so this is like, what I'm offering is a course I feel like what I'm offering here for anyone who's ready for this is to really have a process to excavate our desire around money.
I love that. So you are going to be launching a course really soon on this. We don't
Yep.
have the links for it yet, but I'm going to put your website up so people can email you and at least get on a list for that because I
Yep.
feel like that, when you and I had talked, we kind of came up with this idea and it got really exciting and adventurous. And so I want to make sure that people connect with you so that when you do launch that course, they're dialed in and they know where to go and they know when it's happening. Talk to me a little bit about that course.
So I've done money alchemy, which is a 4-week process of really starting to find the language, um, like totally excavating some past traumas, right,
Oh,
around money,
yeah.
clearing those out, and then figuring out the places of connection that we really do desire with money, and ultimately then being able to have conversations and exchanging and being empowered in our voice with money.
I love it.
um, so that was a beautiful process. What I'm really feeling from this, though, what I want to offer, and I would encourage anyone to just go check it out right now, is excavating your desire with money.
Hmm. Yeah.
And what is that? Like, how do we create that excavation? And
Yeah.
because so much of the times we feel like money isn't listening.
Yeah.
And if we share our desire of what we want with money, then we're just going to feel rejection and abandonment.
Yeah. It's so true. And that worthiness piece. And so many people think, I remember like early on in the days of when I first discovered universal law of attraction. And you put your dream board up and you think about all the things that you want, and it just feels so far away. Like, here we are, we're struggling, we can't pay our bills, our house is in foreclosure, our cars are getting repossessed. And I'm like, I'm abundant and I'm a millionaire. And it's just, you're so far from it. You're so disconnected from the truth of your reality and what your actual desires are because you're not living it like to the core of your being. You're really chasing it. You're more chasing it than anything else. So I love that you're going to create this connection for people that could clear up these stories, because we have so much trauma around money. Most of us don't even realize, especially if you're in your 40s, 50s, like we have grandparents that went through the Great Depression, and that energy is in our line. It's in the line for all of us. So many of us have not broken those cycles. So being able to break that cycle is going to create a whole new earth, a whole new collective consciousness.
It's vital and necessary.
Yeah.
Like this work is, if you're looking for the places of connecting with money and really asking for what you want, then let's do this work, right? Like it's an invitation for us all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the place here too is, I find so many people they fumble
Mm-hmm.
in like really asking specifically for what they want. Money loves clarity.
Yeah.
And the more clear we are with that, the more we're able to connect with money. And I think that's the thing here. The Money for Alchemy, or the Money Alchemy course that I did, was really powerful. And it really helped me to launch this greater place too with my work for founders, and this mastermind it's like, it has all the yummy and juiciness that I have been waiting for like the last 7-8 years, because it's so much of who I am, and it's resolving issues for founders, like real life.
And it's all the work that you've done.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like real life
Yeah.
issues, not saying, okay, I want the $100 million, funding. Like, right. Like it's that thing. Like 8 years ago, I went to this and I'm like, yeah, I want to let's just put a number up. Right. Like I was like, I remember I put $333,000. Right. Like that's the number that came through. And then a year later, that's not what happened.
Right.
Right. So it was so far out of my understanding of what money is and how to connect with it. So I had to go through this process of like, what is really connecting with money, and what is a way that money does want to be within me. That's aligned. And so the mastermind is really my life's work with this place of supporting founders. And I'm really excited about the retreats. I really feel like the Money and Boundaries wants to come out. And then also this place of like, I mean, for couples too, right? Like being able to like have conversations about money and like where they want to be, like physically, how they want to show up for each other. I mean, oh my God, amazing, right?
So good. Like so good. I mean, this is the work that's going to change the world. So you can get a hold of Katrina at her website right here. I feel like you really need to connect with her. I know I am going to stay very connected to her, because in this world of collective consciousness, the more we can improve, the better we can become, the more awakened, the more full of love and expressing and receiving love that we can be, like really initializing, really connected with the fact that we are love, the better this entire world experience is going to be. Do you agree?
Yeah, we are love.
We are love.
And we can stop denying that.
We can stop denying that. We can move from that. We can stop denying that, and we can start living more of that truth.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that you do. You seriously are making this world such a better place, and we are incredibly blessed to have you on the show, and to see what's going to come from our listeners connecting with you, and just your trajectory in the world of knowing this stuff, of sharing it so passionately, and becoming a beacon of truth. That's what you are.
I finally, like after 8 years of excavating, connecting and exchanging, I really am so rooted in this.
Yeah.
And it's been such a journey.
You can feel it. You can really feel it. And I mean, I just think you're going to the place that you're in right now and what your ability is to share this is it's bigger than we even know.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, to anyone who's listening, the one place that was the best, most potent thing for me when I realized the things that I wanted were not what I wanted at all. It was
Yes.
like, this is not what I want. I had to accept that.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Yeah.
that acceptance.
Yeah.
And that's what transformed.
Yeah. Those things I've been chasing for so long, they're not even it. That's
No.
so good. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Katrina. I definitely want to have you back, and I'm excited to see what else is to come.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm really excited for all who have listened and are participating in this conversation.
That's amazing. All right, hang on one second. I'm just going to close out the show. All right, thank you, everyone. Peace out. We love you all.
Bye.